People who have had a stalker, how did you realize you were being stalked and what ended up happening? Not safe for work. It started while I was still in high school. He would be in a few of my classes and we would occasionally see each other around town, a very small, rural town. It slowly turned into him showing up at some of my friend group's hangout spots and saying that I had inspired him to start looking into similar hobbies. We thought it was kinda weird but just brushed it off and avoided him. Flash forward a couple weeks into the start of summer vacation. He had found or followed me to all of my favorite places and my work, even though both were sometimes towns over from our own. I would see his car at parks where I did outdoor painting, at my place of work as well as at friends' houses, and he would drive past the house of the family I nannied for during my days on. I thought it was creepy and told local authorities, but they told me not to worry. This went on for the rest of high school and up until graduation. I didn't tell anyone what university I was going to and lied, claiming it was 1 hour away from mine. He was accepted and attended there while I left for another. He found out after a semester that I wasn't there and showed up at my dorm hall. He tried to break in and convince me and other people in the building to just let him in. I hid out in another girl's room until my friend was able to pick me up and take me to her boyfriend's off-campus apartment. I found out he was arrested the next morning for assaulting an RA. I called and showed them the evidence I had for his persistent stalking and finally filed a restraining order. He just got released a few months ago and I have never been more nervous. I'm just happy my current job and living area has amazing security and they all have pictures and his information to be safe. I may be paranoid, but better safe than end up on a true crime podcast. I had a stalker in high school, and he didn't make it a secret. We were friends at first, kind of talking romantically, but I was very shy when it came to relationships or being physical. We had never even kissed before when he asked if he could send a song he wrote about me. It made me very uncomfortable and I asked him not to send it, but he did anyway. I expressed my discomfort and tried to continue the friendship, but it was just not working because he would still write me poems and send me weird songs. He started following me to my classes even though his were on the other side of school, but he wouldn't speak to me at all. It was insanely uncomfortable. This continued for weeks. He started sending me mean messages anonymously online and sending me songs with scary titles. He sent me that Smith's song "The More You Ignore Me," the closer I get every single day, sometimes multiple times. Then one day at lunch he gave me a handwritten poem and, I can't remember what all it said, but the end was something about how he wanted to watch me get eaten alive by sharks. While friends, I had told him sharks were my biggest fear. I showed my teacher the poem and she freaked out and took it to the guidance counselor. She knew all the previous incidents, so the letter made her worried. Especially his handwriting when he was writing about me dying. I ended up getting called into a meeting with the principal, a guidance counselor, and the teacher I told. They even called my mom in and we all sat down and talked about what would be the best thing to do. The principal was really nervous he would do something crazy, so he said I should just avoid him as much as possible and be polite anytime we may interact. Basically how I was already handling it. I'm not sure if they ever spoke to him about it, but the last interaction I had with him still creeps me out to think about. I was up very late, and received a text from him, "Why are you up so late? You should get ready for bed." He had been to my place once before and I lived very close to the school. I'll always wonder if he was outside my house that night. I caught him jerking off in the window. Long story short, my husband and I moved into our new home. Weird guy directly behind us was weird in the window. Turns out he was jerking off. Stalked online, got my number. Told me this was basically God's plan. He prayed for a beautiful woman and here I was. How my kids were gonna be his. Wild shit. I went on 3 dates with a guy but didn't quite feel like there was a connection. Tried to let him down gently, as he hadn't had a girlfriend before. I was happy to remain friends as he was a friendly guy, I just wasn't attracted to him. This was about May. I've learned a few lessons from this one. He added me on Facebook, which was okay as we'd communicate through there sometimes. A month or so goes by, and he turns up at my house unannounced, saying he was in the area. He actually lived 45 minutes away and decided to go shopping in my town. I wasn't home at the time. My brother messaged me to let me know, and then the guy messaged me too. I apologized and said I was out, won't be home for several hours. That's fine, he went home. He'd picked me up from my house for the third date. A few weeks later, I had accepted an event invitation on Facebook to a car show my mechanic was hosting. The guy turned up at this car event whilst I was there with my brother and some friends, and I didn't really know what to do about it. My brother kept him entertained and I managed to exchange pleasantries but stayed with my friends. I went for lunch with my friends, and when I got home I found out that the guy had gone to my house again. This time he had left some chocolates, a towel with my name embroidered on it and a letter. In the letter he explained how he was in love with me, wanted to have children with me, get married and get a house together. Oh, and the towel was so I could think about him when I dry myself with it. Again, I turned him down, because I wasn't into him. A few months later, I'm seeing someone else and he's over at my house. This guy turns up again, unannounced, trying to get hold of me. Why didn't he just message or call me? But luckily my brother is aware I've got the new guy with me, so tells the guy I'm not home. I had to explain to him in a message that if he wants to see me he actually needs to contact me first, not just turn up unannounced and expect me to be available. It made it much more difficult to want to be friends with him as it was becoming a bit overbearing and I didn't know what he'd try next. So, I had to cut him off. He tried contacting me through several methods, he even changed his number pretending to be someone else. He finally stopped after a year and a half. Last year my girlfriend was getting emails, texts and DMs from a no-name account asking intrusive and weird questions. Are you in an open relationship? Random sexually explicit stuff. She just blocked and moved on. Shocker to me, this is apparently very normal for women and it freaking sucks. Anyway, one time we were in a mall and she noticed this lanky guy was following us. Again, I'm oblivious. She mentions to me that she thinks it's the guy who has been harassing her for weeks. We leave. She gets an email to her business email that night telling her that her boyfriend is cheating on her and flirting with other girls on Goodreads, and how does that make her feel? If she wants to know more she can meet him at a park that we spend a lot of our time together at. She now knows that he lives in our area and has all the information about her. She stops going for runs at night, she stops shopping by herself, etc. Locks down every account, doesn't leave the house alone. She's just angry. I'm angry too. I ended up looking this guy up and realized that we had a mutual friend. Just an actor that I had filmed a commercial with. I send her a message asking if she knows this guy and explain the situation. I see that she's read it but doesn't respond. So for a few months my GF doesn't hear anything from him and we just decide that it's over with. Then I get a message from the actor. Apparently she did know the stalker. It was her ex-boyfriend. They had an abusive relationship and he was really jealous. I guess, he focused in on me because we would recommend each other books on Goodreads. He then decided that he was going to get even with me by stalking my girlfriend. The actor is embarrassed and is saying shit like, I understand if you never want to talk to me again. Which just breaks my heart. We offer to help her out but she said that she has a restraining order and that it's fine. She did contact him and he said he'll stop and never contact us again. We thought we were fine, that it was over with. Then, one day he sends me a long DM trying to explain his behavior and saying that he wants to talk. I ignore it. He keeps sending messages. I keep ignoring it. I think he's done now. But I'll never forgive this guy for making my partner feel incredibly unsafe for a year. I worked as a secretary at an adult school when I was 18. An adult student kept bothering me taking pictures of me outside the office, etc. I quit that job and got him banned from the school. Fast forward 3 years later, I'm in a relationship 6 months pregnant and I'm working at a DRS office. A police officer shows up and tells me I've had a private investigator on me for a few weeks, but he reported his client to the police because his client said he was my husband, but the pie after following me for a few weeks figured out he wasn't and was stalking me. He went to jail for a few days, never heard from him again. It's been 19 years. Freaky ass shit. I have a weird kind of related story. There is a man in my town that for the last 15 years I see him constantly, almost everywhere I go he's there, at least 3 times a month, the grocery store, the corner store, the gas station, Walmart, the liquor store. Occasionally we catch each other's eye and look at each other like you again? And kinda laugh it off. It has come to be a little bit of a joke where I will come home and tell my husband, guess who I saw at the store today? The only catch, he's always at these places first. So it's me who looks like the stalker. Had this woman who would walk into the store I worked at just to talk to me. After a while I got creeped out and started doing inventory and back whenever someone spotted her walking in. I swear she looked more like Annie Wilkes than Kathy Bates did. Used to see her standing outside the library, waiting to get in. She would be cheerful but then utter a string of F-bombs or MF-bombs if she felt slighted in any way, still with that cheerful yet dead-eyed look on her face. My wife did, it became a real problem. He was a maintenance man at the school where she taught. She was throwing out a lot of old, damaged books. He asked if could have them for his kids, of course. After that he wanted to always be there, wherever my wife was. He was always sweeping or cleaning near her room. Then one day in the winter, my wife got a flat right after leaving school. It was getting dark and her new best friend is there to fix it. While changing the tire, he started asking sexual questions. He wanted to know if she ever had a black man. Of course she said nothing. It got worse and the school administration was ignoring it. I was now going way out of my way to take her and to pick her up from school. She was scared. Then he said something to her while she was eating in the cafeteria. She lost it. She just started screaming and crying for him to leave her alone. They sent her home for a few days paid leave. Since the school was no help, I went to see 2 school board members I knew, but not well. I told them. that I had hired an attorney and would be suing the school district unless my wife felt safe. They moved the custodian to another school, but it took months before my wife felt safe. The custodian got in trouble at the next school and was arrested. We never heard from him again. I've never had the threatening stalker, but when I was much younger I did have one of those softcore stalkers. It was the custodian in my building at work. We had a glass front door and he would lean against it while I was at the front desk. He would watch me as I walked to my car at the end of the day. He didn't ever really speak to me though. One day I entered the building in a skirt and he was on his hands and knees cleaning the baseboards, which put his head about the same level as my nethers. I passed by him in the hall giving him as wide a berth as I could, hugging the opposite wall really, when he looks up and says something sure smells good. I bolted to my office suite and said to my boss, I feel like I need a hug and a shower. My boss, my former mentor, my now dear friend, threw his hands up when I told him what the stalker said and said, that's it. I've had it. First he tried to handle things professionally and wrote the property manager, who said that I must have been mistaken and he was complimenting my perfume, which I didn't wear because another coworker was allergic and it was a small space. When that didn't work he decided to patiently lie in wait. Then the next time the stalker went to look for me at the front desk, boss sits me elsewhere in the office and confronts him. He never told me what he said or how the conversation went, but the stalker quit shortly thereafter. He wasn't subtle about it. He threatened me by phone and email, followed a moving truck to my new apartment, ignored police instructions to stop contacting me multiple times, then contacted me through other people, showed up in random places in my new city. It only stopped after he got arrested for assault on someone else, and ultimately moved to a different city, where he was again arrested for assault. That last part I only know because I was regularly looking him up on court records to see if he was free. He knew my address and did a change of address form to route it to his house. He got my social as well somehow and set up an Experian account. I called them but they said they couldn't do anything but help me get ownership of the account. He would get my mail and my Target gift cards from when they used to send them via mail for certain deals. I didn't get any of that stuff back. I changed my number 3 times, found a P.O. box and moved. I still randomly get someone trying to get into my Google account. This was 3.5 years ago. Used to take dance lessons. My ex was so controlling I found out he would drive past the class just after it started to see if my car was there and then would check that I went home after. If I went anywhere without clearing it with him first he would go insane. It began happening everywhere I went. He said it was to keep me safe. In reality it's because he had control issues. Once we broke up it continued. When I started dating another man he broke into the house and messed with our home to try and scare my new boyfriend off. He slashed car tires, followed us to supermarkets. He was everywhere. Eventually my new boyfriend had to go on a street corner and the ex finally disappeared. Took a long time to not look over the shoulder. Not sure if this counts, but I'll share anyway. I was repeatedly harassed by my ex after cutting him off because he cheated on and manipulated me during our 3-year relationship and he didn't like that I wasn't in his control anymore. After we hashed it out for the last time over text, I blocked him on everything except messages but stopped responding to his texts. Sent me a birthday text, tried to talk to me after the girlfriend he was with while still seeing me broke up with me, commented on my YouTube channel, then texted me from a new number. This went on for a bit. 2 months later, I get a text from my dad. The dude showed up at my front door at 11 at night while I was at work, wanting to talk to me. I freaked out. Panicked a bit in the car, then drove home. As I'm walking up the driveway to get inside, Dad's waiting at the door for me. Ex's car stops in the middle of the road as he spots me. Run inside, he parks and goes up to the door again. Dad answers for me, tells him to leave. It took me 20 to 25 minutes to get home. He waited for me, circling around my house. Yikes. Also, a month after that he made a pickup order for the store I work at. I packed his order. Scared the shit out of me because during the holidays I help with making orders / stockroom operations, so if I were working on the day he picked it up, I'd probably be the one to have to give it to him. A few weeks ago he sent me a letter about how good of a person I am, how much he's changed as a person, how he misses me, but most importantly how he never cheated on me, and everybody who says otherwise, yes, there are witnesses, is a liar. My current boyfriend texts him saying to leave me alone. Ex blows up at him and says that my current BF is manipulating me because I was in a bad mindset and all these people are telling me all these terrible lies of cheating and gaslighting. Ironic part is, ex shit talks me to our friends about how much I ruined his life and I'm a terrible manipulative bitch. Wouldn't be surprised if he has an alt account trying to still keep tabs on me. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Dude has serious anger issues and lying problems, but I don't think I can get a restraining order or anything. BC he hasn't made threats on my life that I know of, and plus I'd rather not see his face again. My dad says if there's any more contact he's gonna call his mother, but I wish he told her the night ex came to my house. I'm still terrified to come home at night, or even walk in my downstairs at night. I don't feel safe in my own home, but nothing I can really do. If I do anything, it'll set him off. I know if we see each other in public he'll run right up to me, and in that case I have a plan, but I think, or at least hope, he's done putting any effort in. Not very intense stalking as it could be, and there's a lot more context than just I have a stalker, just taken the opportunity to share and vent. I'd if it's considered stalking, but this girl I was dating in high school's mom hired a private investigator to follow me around. When I went to meet her parents, her mom showed me pictures of me smoking cigars, buying beer, dipping, and even one of me working on my car. I ended up breaking up with her a few months later, but I still never understood why a grown-ass adult would hire a pie to follow around a 16-year-old. There was this weird dude that used to call my house when I was 16. One day when my sister 13, she answered the landline and heard a man start asking her questions about who she was, name and age, etc. My sister thought it was one of her friends messing around and didn't think much of it. Later that day my mum got answered the phone to the same dude asking for the girl. He proceeded to call about 50 times a day from 3 different London landlines. He never spoke to my sister after the first time, but always asked for her. He was vulgar and threatening when my dad spoke to him. In the end we had to pay to have all 3 of the numbers blocked for 6 months or so. The police didn't care. If I recall, it's because he was calling from hundreds of miles away. Even though I never spoke to him, it was just so unsettling hearing the phone ring so often. I think we unplugged it a lot of the time before getting him blocked. We have no idea who he was or why he harassed us like that. I imagine maybe he just spent all day calling numbers until people answered.